Imagine just for a second that you could only eat one type of food for an entire week. Seriously, just pizza for every meal. Or maybe only apples. What do you think would actually happen to your health? Would your body hold up, or would it just completely start to break down? Well, in this explainer, we're answering that exact question by digging into what the human body truly needs to survive, thrive, and just function normally on a daily basis.
To really wrap our heads around all this, we're going to use a pretty cool analogy. I want you to think of the human body like a massive, incredibly complex fortress. Now, to keep any fortress strong, you need 3 non-negotiable things: the absolute right building blocks to construct it, daily maintenance to keep the walls from crumbling, and strict defenses to protect it from outside invaders. So we'll be following a really clear roadmap today. We're going to hit 5 key steps. First, fueling the human body. Second, finding the right balance. Third, understanding communicable diseases. Fourth, defending against germs. And finally, we'll wrap up with the danger of deficiencies. Let's get right into it.
Starting off with Section 1, fueling the human body, the essential building blocks.
Okay, every fortress needs basic materials, right? And our body demands very specific nutrients to live and grow. Think about it like this. On one hand, we have our energy-giving nutrients, which are carbohydrates and fats. Carbs, stuff like rice, wheat, and bananas, give us that quick, immediate energy we need just to move around and do physical stuff. Fats, which you get from butter, oil, and nuts, actually pack even more energy than carbs and help keep us warm. But on the other hand, we've got the bodybuilding nutrients, and those are proteins. Sourced from things like milk, eggs, meat, and pulses, proteins are literally the bricks and mortar of our bodily fortress. We need them in large quantities because they're absolutely vital for growing, building muscle, and repairing tissues whenever we get hurt. But hey, a fortress isn't just bricks and raw energy. You also need protective materials and, well, a solid waste disposal system. That's where vitamins and minerals come in. They're our protective nutrients. They help us fight off diseases and build super strong bones and teeth. Calcium and iron are huge players here. And we can't forget the unsung heroes of the gut: roughage, also known as fiber, and water. We get roughage from green leafy veggies and legumes. Now, even though our body doesn't actually digest it, roughage acts kind of like a broom, sweeping food right through our digestive system. Pair that with 6 to 8 glasses of water a day, and your fortress's internal plumbing is basically running perfectly.
Moving right along to Section 2, finding the right balance, the food pyramid, and maintenance.
So just hoarding a bunch of building blocks isn't going to cut it. They have to be combined correctly, and that really depends on a person's age, gender, and what kind of work they do. A superactive teenager is going to need a completely different ratio of fuel than an older adult who does less physical labor. And that brings us to the food pyramid, which is just a fantastic guide to what a balanced diet actually looks like day to day. At the wide base at the bottom, we have breads, rice, and cereals. You're going to want a hefty 6 to 11 servings of these just for your baseline energy. Moving up a tier, we need 3 to 5 servings of fruits and veggies. Higher still are the dairy products and proteins, where we need about 3 to 4 servings. And right at the tiny top tip of the pyramid, oils, fats, and sugars. Those are the things we should really only be having occasionally. It's just a great structured guide for everyday eating.
Which begs the question, what exactly is a balanced diet? Well, it's pretty simple. It's a diet that contains all of those nutrients we just broke down, but in the exact right quantities. Eating the wrong nutrients or severely lacking them directly leads to undernutrition or malnutrition. If you're missing a key nutrient or even just eating way too much of the wrong one, the walls of your fortress are going to start weakening.
But look, diet is really only half the equation here. Maintaining this fortress requires regular physical activity and proper recovery. Exercise pumps up the blood flow, which effectively strengthens your muscles and bones. It keeps the whole structure totally fit. On the flip side, taking sufficient rest is just as crucial. By the end of a long day, the body is completely drained. Sleep is what allows the fortress to power down, relax, and repair itself, so you wake up energetic, refreshed, and ready to do it all over again.
Which brings us to Section 3, understanding communicable diseases, the invisible invaders. Okay, so our fortress is well built, it's maintained. But what happens when it's under attack? The invaders in this scenario are germs. These fascinating microscopic organisms come in a few different forms. You've got bacteria, which cause diseases like tuberculosis. You've got viruses, which are responsible for things like polio, chickenpox, and the common cold. There are also protozoa that cause malaria, and fungi that cause ringworm. Basically, these are the tiny foot soldiers constantly trying to breach your walls and spread from one person to the next.
Let's look at how they actually pull off a breach. These invaders use very specific tactics, often relying on vectors, like insects, to do the heavy lifting. Take diseases like malaria, yellow fever, or dengue, for example. Here's the chain of infection. Step 1. A mosquito bites a sick person. Step 2. That mosquito sucks up blood that's loaded with these microscopic germs. Step 3. The exact same mosquito flies over, bites a totally healthy person, and delivers those germs straight into their bloodstream. Just like that, your outer walls are bypassed entirely.
And insects aren't the only way in, not by a long shot. Communicable diseases spread through our daily interactions via different modes of transmission. They can be airborne, meaning when someone coughs or sneezes, germs literally ride the air into a healthy person's body, causing stuff like influenza or whooping cough. They can enter through infected food and water, which is often the work of flies landing on uncovered food. Or they can just invade through direct contact. Germs can spread just by touching the clothes or items used by someone who's sick. It really is a constant invisible siege.
So let's talk about defense. Section 4. Defending against germs, hygiene, and vaccination.
How do we fight back? Because we are definitely not defenseless. Our very first line of defense is just basic hygiene. We're talking washing your hands before you eat, using covered bins for garbage so you don't attract flies, and cleaning your bathrooms with chemical disinfectants. But here is a truly wild fact from the source material. Sunlight itself acts as a natural disinfectant. Yeah, simply letting fresh air and sunlight into your house helps kill off germs naturally. And, of course, using things like mosquito nets while you sleep and preventing stagnant water physically blocks those insect vectors we talked about earlier.
But what if a germ actually manages to get past that hygiene barrier? Well, that is where your elite internal defenses kick in. Vaccination. Vaccines are an incredibly effective way of preventing communicable diseases. Think of a vaccine as a highly detailed training manual for your body. When the vaccine for a specific disease enters your system, it trains your body's capability to kill those exact germs. It provides built-in resistance against incredibly dangerous diseases like polio, measles, and chickenpox, stopping huge epidemics in their tracks. I mean, vaccination is the reason smallpox has been completely eradicated.
And we really owe a massive debt for this knowledge to Louis Pasteur. He was a brilliant French scientist who made the revolutionary discovery that microscopic organisms are actually what cause these diseases in the first place. But he didn't just stop there. He developed vaccines against rabies and anthrax, and he invented pasteurization, which kills harmful bacteria in milk. The guy basically wrote the modern defensive playbook for our bodies.
Finally, we reach Section 5, the danger of deficiencies, when the fortress collapses internally.
Now, we've spent a lot of time talking about outside invaders, but what if the threat is actually coming from inside the house? Non-communicable diseases don't spread from person to person. Instead, they happen when the body simply runs out of specific building materials. It's direct cause and effect. If you severely lack vitamin A, you can develop night blindness, making it super hard to see in dim light. The fix: eat more leafy greens, sweet potatoes, and mangoes. A deficiency in vitamin B1 causes beriberi, which messes with your heart and nervous system, but you can prevent it by eating unpolished rice, meat, and peas. And missing vitamin C causes scurvy, which gives you bleeding gums and swollen joints, but it's easily prevented by just eating citrus fruits like oranges or amla. These diseases are literally caused by the absence of the right food.
To help keep track of all these internal threats, the source material gives us a pretty fun little mnemonic device, NBSGARO. It stands for No Body Says Go and Run Out. Let's break that down together. N is for night blindness, B is for beriberi, S is for scurvy, G is for goiter, A is for anemia, R is for rickets, and O is for osteoporosis. It's just a clever, structured way to memorize the major deficiency diseases. And remember, every single one of these represents a structural failure in your fortress that absolutely could have been prevented with a proper balanced diet.
Which brings us right back to you and the choices you're making every single day. As we've seen, our bodies are incredibly resilient fortresses, but they demand respect. They need the right building materials, they need proper rest, and they require vigilant defense against those invisible invaders. So looking at your own daily routine, I want to leave you with this to think about. Are you actually maintaining your fortress with balanced habits and good hygiene, or are you unknowingly leaving it vulnerable to an internal collapse?
Thank you.